unexcused absence tonight, and that's Larry Kapinka, is unable to be here this evening. So to start off with, can I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Motion by Mark Davis, support from Steve Bowerman. Any questions or comments? I'll make one comment. So I know some folks have perhaps noticed that we moved a couple of agenda items. We had them on there, we took them off. We did not move those to closed session. We determined that we needed appropriate time in the closed session to cover the item that we wanted to cover there. And so we will definitely cover those topics around the data review and the book guidelines in an upcoming open session meeting, either in December, if we can coordinate the schedules with band concerts and everything else going on, or in this case in January. So just so the audience is aware of that. Other questions or comments from the board on the agenda? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, we now move on to those who would like to speak with the board this evening. So Robin will call your name, and please come up and address the board.
Our first speaker is Alden McAfee.
Alden McAfee. Nope.
Mindy Vanden Heuvel.
Mindy Vanden Heuvel. That may be Alden right there. Is that Alden?
Yeah.
Okay, we just called your name, so if you want to come up and...
I apologize for being late. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you. So tonight, it'll be quick. I just want to ask that you don't make decisions based on political beliefs. You don't make decisions based on money. You don't make decisions based on the popular vote. You don't make decisions based on someone's feelings. We make decisions on what you know is right in your heart, because doing what's right is never a bad decision. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you for your comments. And then...
Mindy Vanden Heuvel.
Nope.
Jennifer Johnson.
Jennifer Johnson. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I noticed you will be evaluating Dr. Vanderjack during the closed session this evening and would like to voice my support for him. He has successfully navigated our district through some very difficult and unprecedented times. His unwavering dedication to our students, staff, and the entire community is very clear. While we as a community may not agree on everything and are oftentimes at odds, he has been willing to listen to everyone's viewpoints and has responded to every email and phone call I have ever made. He has navigated this unprecedented time very well, keeping all students and parents in mind when making key decisions. He has worked tirelessly to navigate the district through the COVID-19 pandemic, with information, advisories, and mandates changing almost daily. He has done everything possible to ensure our students were supported during the shutdown and to remain in person when allowed. Dr. Vanderjack is exactly who we need leading this district through these tumultuous times, and we are very grateful to have him. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I believe that's all we have. Okay. With that, we'll move on to discussion items. And we have one discussion item this evening, and that's the Open Meetings Act, and specifically the board committees, excuse me, that we currently have. There are 4 board committees: HR, Finance, Policy, and Human Resources. Right? Government and Community Relations. Sorry, 5. And currently, those are non-quorum committees that meet. And again, a number of the folks here were present during the work session we had a month ago or so with the MASP lawyer, and we talked about our committee meetings and MASP's recommendation and so forth. So, wanted to open that up this evening to different perspectives from the boards. We may or may not come to a decision tonight on where we want to go forward, because we may want to think about it and talk some more, but I want to open it up now to the board to share perspectives on the committees and how we move forward. So, just open up the general discussions, unless you want to tee it up with anything else. Okay. Thoughts, comments from the board on committee meetings. Or anything else that was brought up in the Open Meetings Act discussion.
I thought your summary of the three different perspectives was actually really well stated, and it does kind of put into perspective of the choices before us. So I thought that was quite well stated. The position of if we want to have everybody involved in discussions, we'd have to dissolve the committee structure like we had a few years ago and do more in work session so that everybody could hear, plus it becomes part of an open meeting then. It just kind of covers both issues at hand. So I thought that was really well stated.
And for the benefit of the audience, what I had, can you hear me okay? Okay. For the benefit of the audience, what I had laid out with the board, thank you, with the board was, and there's possibly other options as well, but just trying to keep some thoughtfulness around it and the discussion moving forward. We could stay the way we are with committees as being non-public. We are, to clarify what Mr. Banasek, the lawyer from MASB, stated, MASB, Michigan Association of School Boards, recommends that committees are, board subcommittees are open to the public, but it's not required. Board subcommittees, non-quorum, are not allowed to make decisions, and they have to come to the full board for a vote. So one approach is we could just say status quo. Again, I'm not advocating that. We're just laying things on the table here for discussion. Another approach is we take the board committees and we open them up to the public and take that approach. Another approach is that we end subcommittees, board subcommittees, and we return to work sessions where we cover everything in work sessions. And the two goals, in determining which path we go down, to me, and again, other board members may have other perspectives, this is just my opinion, there are two goals we're trying to achieve. Number one, we want to enhance and improve the transparency, which folks have asked for. And number two, we want all board members to feel like they are informed of anything that is reviewed in a subcommittee. And there's probably been some gaps in that over the past, number of months or so that's occurred. So to me, those are the two objectives we're trying to achieve as we sort through those three options or other options as we move forward. So that's what Mr. Baldwin is referring to. So, and what I also proposed was we can talk about it tonight, we can give board opinions and discussion on the table in front of the audience, and then we can, we may want to take some time individually and kind of discern that a little bit more. We have no, check me on this, but we have no committees in December, meetings in December, staff, any?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Okay, so we don't.
That was canceled for the meeting.
Yeah, but I don't think we're gonna have any in December, so the next round would be, the next meetings would be in January. So that's the context and the background and full transparency of what we're talking about here. Other thoughts?
Ken,
Yep.
is it fair to say we can take a hybrid approach too? Like, we can make that decision perhaps by committee in terms of maybe some committees, and I'll use curriculum as an example. I think curriculum is a hot topic. I think it's a topic that the full board is finding interest in at the moment. I think it's a committee that the public has great interest in, and perhaps the best approach on something like curriculum is to dissolve curriculum and have that happen in full work session, as opposed to a committee meeting. Whereas policy, I mean, we could, everybody's interested in policy all the time, I know, but policy is one where, I mean, you could go either way. I can tell you, policy by virtue of the fact that policy must be approved by the full board. I can tell you there's nothing that happens in committee ever that doesn't come before the full board and get discussed with the full board, because it can't by virtue of the way it's structured. And so you could make the argument of either dissolve it and have it at the full board, or continue to have the committee function as it is, knowing everything policy has to and must come to the full board.
that's a point of consideration, yeah.
I agree with Steve, that those choices that you laid out were good, Ken. We want transparency, we want board members to know what's going on. And if going back to a work session format accomplishes that the best, that's definitely something that I would see being considered. The other thing I want to keep in mind is obviously the administration staff. I don't want them to have to duplicate time and again what they would be presenting to us. And so again, if that facilitates the efficiency, I would be for that.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Having, I currently don't sit on curriculum, so I kind of agree with what Chad has said. Having not sitting on curriculum, I often feel that I'm not informed. And I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable because I can't answer questions. And I don't know if information has come back to the full board to look at options. So I know it might require more work sessions or more work on the board's part. But for certain committees, I do think that the whole board needs to be more informed.
So you're.
And that would happen through a work session.
Okay, so
I
you're
don't
kind of
think that-
moving to that hybrid model that
Yep.
there's some policy perhaps not, but
Yep.
curriculum is a particular one that should.
Yep.
Okay.
I've been around for a long time, so I've seen this go all ways. I've seen it, when I was first on the board, we had we had committees, excuse me, and that functioned pretty well. And then we went to committees of the whole board. I wasn't really wild about that at first, but I think it worked pretty well. And then in recent years, we've gone back to the committees. I would prefer, well, I want whatever gives us the most opportunity for public exposure. And I would think if we had the board as committee of a whole, that I think that it'll kind of fall into place. I think that the interest level of a policy committee meeting is going to be minimal compared to what a curriculum will be. I don't think we'll have a lot of citizens showing up for the finance committee meeting when we talk about that. But I would think for the sake of maximum exposure to the board and to the public, I would prefer to see us do just the board as committee of the whole and do this in work sessions.
And so we'd have a committee of the whole for policy, for curriculum, for HR, et cetera. But in the agenda, we would post that this is a policy committee
Yeah.
meeting,
Yeah.
the whole board, but it's a policy committee meeting. And again, yeah, that may be not one that's of interest to a lot of folks, but the next meeting is a curriculum committee meeting, and that is one that is of more interest. So,
Yeah,
so that could be another approach.
Yeah, or any item could come up at the work session. I think what will happen eventually is that it'll fall into what Chad has talked about. That'll be de facto what Chad has asked for here, kind of a hybrid model, because I think the interest level in curriculum is going to be very high.
Sure.
I think the interest level in finance, with all due respect, is not going to be quite as high. And so I think it'll kind of take care of itself in terms of public interest and comments. Yeah, so that would be my preference. I could live with either having the committees open to the public or having the board do all the committee work here.
Okay.
And by
I'm not-
committee work here, you're saying in one work session.
In any work
So in other
session.
words, if each administration person overseeing finance or curriculum had something to address, they would all be at the work session.
Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah. I'm not as comfortable as I used to be with committees not being open to the public. That makes me more uncomfortable.
If the committees were open to the public, since let's say I don't sit on curriculum, if I were to attend curriculum, would that make it then a quorum, and would I be able to attend curriculum? No.
If there are 4 board members.
So in essence, even if it's open to the public, I could not attend curriculum.
I'm guessing that's the case. I was thinking about that today, and I'm thinking that would be the case, because then it would have to be a public meeting with notification.
Right.
teams.
Exactly.
So
There's a
te-
quorum, yeah.
Yeah, so technically, the public could all attend.
But I
But the
could as a
four
board
board
member.
members.
Yeah, yeah.
You can send your husband.
Okay.
Send your
Send your
husband.
husband. You
Yeah.
have to take notes. I know her husband, he would take the
I
notes.
would do it.
He would. Yeah.
Another thing I would possibly recommend is that we maybe keep this a discussion item, and since January is our organizational meeting, and that is the time we normally would establish the board committees, that might be the appropriate time to make the decision, and if we stay with committees, then at that point in time, we can discuss who's going to be in what committee.
And I'm okay with that, Don, as long as we don't have any committee meetings in the interim. If we can postpone committee meetings until after that decision is made, I'm okay with that.
I don't think we have any scheduled.
And that's the point that Ken made, he doesn't think we have any schedules.
I don't believe we do, but I would agree, we don't want any, and December's a full month anyway, so, I would suspect not, but,
Is there anything that would have to be done in committee before the end of the year?
Nothing comes before, nothing at a committee is a decision made by the board anyway. So everything that's gone through committee has still come to the full board, in a work session or in a board meeting, so, it'd be the same.
yeah, and again, I know there are some concerns that some of there were some items that were passed illegally. I mean, I know I've seen some of the emails and so forth, but we do not make decisions in our committees, in our board committees. We do not make decisions. And we bring those to the full board for full decisions. And so that has been our practice. Now, I don't sit on every committee, so that's my opinion again. Other board members can speak to their committees, but that has always been our standard that we look for. Other comments, thoughts?
So, I like what Mark said, and, but I might be more of a hybrid approach in terms of rather than a committee of the whole, for everything. I think a committee of the whole, certainly for curriculum, from my perspective. You know, some of the others, I could be on board with still maintaining committees, but having them be open to the public, like, policy, I really don't. There's nothing that's discussed there that isn't coming to the board, so the public would certainly be welcome to attend the conversation. I mean, it's a riveting conversation, you know, and I think if we make some decisions in January, I'd be happy to rotate Mark and Larry and Steve onto the policy committee too.
Scintillating. Actually,
Yeah.
policy, I appreciate what you say, Chad. Policy could become going forward a critical issue because we want to make sure policies are done very correctly. And we have one before us right now that I have some concerns about.
Sure. But I have also appreciated how the committees, when it comes to opportunity for dialogue with some of the additional staff and the ability to explore topics in discussion and feedback, it's been a way to divide and conquer to some degree. And you know, my only concern about a committee of the whole is we will certainly need to increase the cadence, the volume, the frequency of meetings to do it that way. And just want to make sure that we aren't impeding the ability to get the work done of the district if we function as a committee of the whole. So, yes, you know, ultimately we can go whichever direction, and if it doesn't work, just change it.
Yeah, true too.
I don't think our current format is working. I will say that, just because I'm only gonna pick on the ruler curriculum. I know that came to a work session, ruler came, but the other options were not presented. So I know that curriculum or someone looked at other programs. I myself wouldn't mind, you know, what are the different programs, what were the pros and cons? I mean, I didn't even know other programs had been looked at. So, and maybe that was discussed on curriculum, I don't know. I'm not a member. But I do have concerns with the current structure, and I don't know if it's working.
Yeah, I'm certainly gathering that from the discussion, is that the status quo is not the way we want to stay going forward. So this committee of the whole that meets and covers the different areas, or the hybrid approach. And again, we can certainly decide on one, either tonight or come January, to Dawn's point, when we elect, or when we select the new folks going on committees, and we'll determine that, and then change it if we want to tweak it from there. So, but clearly the status quo is not an option going forward.
Right. Good point. I could make a decision tonight, but I'm, in deference to Don, I'm happy to wait so long as we don't have any committee meetings in the interim.
You're going to assure us of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to be assured of that. Let's just be clear like that. The
We
board
don't
wants.
have anything scheduled, and I don't know.
Yeah, so I know I'm looking
Nor my
at
schedule.
Amy and Andy and thank you, Ann. I'm sorry, but we're gonna make that declaration now. No committee meetings in December, just so we're all clear on that.
Yeah.
And, then we will make a final decision in January. So is that, we've got two, and I'll summarize the notes and get them out to the board. But I'm hearing the hybrid approach and the committee of the whole approach. I will propose, unless the board wants to make a decision tonight, that's fine too, I'm okay with that. But otherwise, I'll propose that I summarize that in a note out to the board, and we take the remainder of December, think about it. Maybe in the December 9 regular meeting, have a little more discussion if we choose, and then make a final decision in January. Does that? Yeah.
I personally think it might be helpful if we made a decision in December so that we
Okay.
know the plan going forward. So if a committee meeting needs to be held in January, we have a structure in place.
Okay.
Because if we don't make a decision until January, what happens through maybe the first half of January in regards to committees?
Okay.
I don't know,
Yeah.
I think if we all went home and thought about it, I think possibly in December we would be ready.
Okay.
I think that's enough time to think about it too.
Agreed. Now, the other approach we could take was just say, hey, no committee meetings in that first part of, no committee meetings before the regular board meeting in January, and push those out past that date too. But if the board thinks December's enough time, given the options that we're down to, committee of the whole that reviews everything, or a hybrid, and the board can, this doesn't require a vote, doesn't require a vote by the board, so a consensus is what we need, and if we can reach that consensus here in December.
You are not gonna make any of these people upset if we get rid of committees, just to be clear.
Okay. Okay. So we can target, I'll get the notes out like tomorrow, so we can target December 9. We do have a work session tentatively scheduled for December 20. I know that we're getting into prime Christmas vacation time and so forth at that time. So Doug and I did have some discussion about, gosh, maybe we want to pull that up a week, or what do we want to do there? So, but we could also do something at a work session, mid-December, or maybe that third week in December. If that's it.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a way forward?
Sounds good.
Okay, I'll summarize the notes, the comments from this board meeting. Thanks, everybody, for the candid discussion. And then as of right now, we will target a decision on the 9th. If we're not quite there yet, then we'll schedule and have a decision, again, a consensus decision at a work session later in December. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Questions, comments? Okay. All right, great discussion, thank you. Okay, that is all the discussion items we have this evening. Again, just to repeat, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but the other items we pulled off, we're not talking about those in closed session. We are going to review those in a later meeting in December. We just want to make sure we had enough time for closed session. Speaking of which, we're going to adjourn now, not adjourn, but we're going to vote to go into closed session. We could very likely be in there 2+ hours. So we're going to come out of that and we're going to adjourn. You're welcome to stay if you want to hear us come out and adjourn, but we'll be in there for a while, I anticipate. And then the only other thing we have for this evening is to adjourn. So again, you're welcome to stay, but not really anything else we're covering this evening. So with that, can I have a motion and a second, please, to go into closed session?
So moved.
Motion by Don Sneeden.
Support.
Support from Chad Tuttle. And then we'll do a roll call. Chad?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 And we are in closed session now. And board, I think we're even into the media center.
Okay.
Give us a little more space. Have a closed session. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Wait, I gotta get a pen up.
Oh.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, Chad Tuttle, second.
Support.
Support from Bart. All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. We are adjourned.